Shalom. Kol Halal Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. The 144,000 and the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners among the heathen that look like the heathen, and to the few Akwath that are listening and learning to you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you another lesson in truth, inspired by Apostle Tahar, Elder Apostle Tahar, and the beloved brother from GMS News, Amath, and Salakia. The brother's name is leaving me right now. I can see his face and hear his voice. It's plain as day. And his name is so Salakia, beloved. But it was a video that he responded to that Apostle Tahar made a statement that he made in the video. And I remember watching that video. I too thought, my mind went to the same place that the brothers did. Like, wow, the Renaissance. He made that think about this is our Renaissance, all right? And then it just so happened that I have been rewatching the series that you're looking at on the screen of The Walking Dead. And it dawned on me as I was listening to, because I turned on his video, as I was finishing an episode, and it dawned on me that the Israelites, we were the dead, walking around in Babylon, and we had been scattered to the four corners of the earth. So this merry band of survivors here could very well be a physical representation of Revelation 7 and 9. And as a matter of fact, let me get that. Let me get that real quick. Because this is being done completely through the Spirit. I didn't have any planned precepts or anything. This was on my spirit, so I just pulled up these images and turned on the computer. But this is let me turn this off so it won't be disturbing. Well, it won't let me do that once. There we go. All right, this is Revelation 7 and 9, and it 7 and 14 is what I meant to say. No, 9. And it says, "And after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and peoples and tongues, stood before the throne, before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands, and cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our power, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb." So if you were looking at this group of people, and this just hypothetically, not the actual group, but letting their physicality represent what we're talking about, the fact that the Israelites were scattered among all people. So, the largest portion of the group is Esau. But you got northern and southern Canaan standing there too. All right? You got one northern kingdom chick, two southern kingdom chicks, and two southern kingdom men. All right? Then you got you got Esau, and you got one Moabite in there. All right? So this band of people could very well represent what John was looking at, because the scriptures clearly tell you that we got scattered among all people, among all nations. All right, and I spoke on Moab, so let me go to that one. That's a quick, easy one. You don't really have to think on that one. It's Isaiah 16 and 4. And it reads, "Let mine outcast dwell with thee, Moab. Be thou covert unto them from the face of the spoiler, for the extortioner is at an end, and the spoiler ceaseth, and the oppressors are consumed out of the land." All right, so the guy on the far end, his name was Glenn. All right, and Glenn could represent those Judites that got hid among the so-called Chinese. See, the Lord is, and why did the Lord do this thing? He did that to really to blind or to discard the 2/3 who can't get beyond the whole color thing. A couple brothers went in on that, because people were making these stupid statements about Mahone and his father, and how his father's blackness is gone. That blackety black and I'm black y'all spirit. And these are people who really don't believe the Bible. They don't believe the record. What is it saying? I think that's 1 John 5:10. They believe not the record. They don't, That's how people don't want to acknowledge that the Lord was a so-called black man when he walked the earth in the physical. It describes him. It describes the angels. It describes the Father. But people don't want to believe the record as what is written. They want to believe in the Renaissance. All right? And not believe in our own Renaissance. And part of the Israelite Renaissance is that they were going to come looking like all people in the end of days. All right? And the funny thing, too, with people like that don't want to believe that, the color people, the people who are just so hung up on color, I just find it funny that they, in the reverse, they don't have a problem with it. When someone is dark flesh, but they have a foreign father, their father is an Edomite, or their father is a Moabite, or their father is, one of these other nations, okay, Elamite or Ishmael or whatever. As long as they're dark, they accept them. But if their father is a so-called black man, like the big black guy in the middle, who's actually supposed to be the main character. It's funny on this because there was a lot of rewrites in this show. And for those of you who watched the show or didn't know, when you look in the center, you see the character of Rick, and you see Tyrese, the two men in the middle, the white guy and the black guy. Just so you know what I'm talking about. They're supposed to be the main characters, all right. But they wrote in Daryl's character, the guy that's standing on the screen on the right side of Rick to Rick's left arm. Daryl was wrote in. He wasn't even in the series at all. So they rewrote the black guy's series character out and put Daryl's character in because he was literally the main character, and Rick was kind of like his sidekick, the two main characters. So they rewrote and downplayed his. He came in in the 4th season and was dead by the 6th, when he's supposed to be the main character. But that's what you expect from Esau. Edom. He likes to change the story around and not go with the record. So with that, let me read this. This is 1 John 5:10, and it reads, "He that believeth on the Son of God have witness in himself. He that believeth not made him a liar, because he believeth not the record that God gave of his Son." So, and the Lord gave, Yahweh gave the record of Yahweh Shai, right? And, and he had bronze-like skin that looked like it was burnt in a furnace, so he was very dark, and he had woolly hair. And then in Acts 13, the disciples, the disciples and the men of the Lord were called nigger, not Niger, not Niger. They were actually called nigger. I've proven that too many times for anyone to try to argue with it. All right, I produced the receipts to prove that word was described that way, was pronounced that way, and it didn't have the negative connotation that it has now today. It was no different from saying black or negro or moreno. It was no different from using those words. It just was a description of someone. And after slavery, it became a negative term. All right. After the Dutch slave traders, when they started calling you nigger and making it a negative term. So that once upon a time, it was just a description to describe someone who was dark flesh and nothing more. All right. But, and speaking on the Renaissance, during the time of the Renaissance, there's a few things that happened. Let's pull this up. This was the book, the Medieval Empire of the Israelites. And as you see, they have Africa, Asia, and Europa. Well, here's the thing. That word Europa, when they talk about Europe, Europe is attached to the continent of Asia, because you'll notice that when I watched what was the series? The series which is a really great series, the Spartacus series that came out in, around 2014 or 16 or something like that. And you never heard Europe. All right? When you read the Bible, the word Europe is not found in it. Even though you were dealing with Rome, you were dealing with Greece, you don't hear the word Europe. Europe came about after the Renaissance. So they created, and here's a map, just to prove it. Here's a map of Asia, all right? And as you can see, it wasn't divided into three parts. It wasn't divided into the Middle East and Asia Minor and then Europe. As you can see, I'm trying to get it in focus. There it is. There's no separation between Europe and Asia. It's all one continent. So that's just something. They carved up all these lines. They removed all the boundaries and the lines and carved it up for themselves. But when you look at the map, there is no separation. All right. And so what I've come to the conclusion, you can only come to the conclusion that these things were made up to fit their Renaissance. Because that's when you get Europe. All right? In the Renaissance, all of a sudden you got all this European this and European that. And then came, the Darwinism. And before him, what was his name? Johann Blumenbach. And then all of a sudden you had Negroid, Caucasoid, and Mongoloid. Let me use the pointer. All of a sudden you had Negroid, Caucasoid, and Mongoloid. All right? And what they try to mash those up to? They tried to mash those up to Ham, Shem, and Japheth, basically. And which doesn't match up, because according to them, where would Japheth and there's a difference between Esau, the Edomites, and Japheth. How do they fit into Europe? You see, there's too many unanswered questions. Why? Because they made up so many things. They just made up lies, fabricated lies. This is Job 13:4. And it reads, "But ye are forgers of lies, you are all physicians of no value." So they created this pseudoscience, and they tried to marry it to the Bible. All right, so they took this Negroid, Caucasoid, and Mongoloid and tried to marry it to Ham, Shem, and Japheth, and it still doesn't fit. All right? And then comes 1681, in Virginia, they created something called whiteness. All right? To fulfill and finish off what they started in the late 1400s, going into the early 1500s in the Renaissance, the rebirth of Esau, Edom. Well, now that we've come to the end of this thing, all right, Jacob had his own, it's prophesied. Jacob had its rebirth where? In the land where we were walking dead. All right, in the valley, in the shadow of the valley of death. All right, we awakened to who we were, and they don't like it because they know that it spells the infinite. The scriptures clearly say that Jacob is the. Matter of fact, let me get it. Let's go before I screw it up trying to say it. When I have the scriptures right here, nothing can say it. Speak better than the scriptures. Let's go to it. This is 2nd Ezra 6. And 6. I start at verse 6. And it reads, make those green. It says, "Then I considered these things, and that they were all made through me alone, through none other. By me also they shall be ended, and by none other. Then answered I and said, What shall be the parting of the asunder of times? When shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth?" All right. So he's asking, when is the end of the world? When is the kingdom of heaven? All right. Remember, what was the first thing that back in the book of Acts that the disciples and the men of the Lord asked Yahushua when they realized it was him back, after he had come back after from the dead. And they were in that drawing their swords and spears mentality, sharpening their swords, like, would thou now restores the kingdom to Israel? Are we going to go to war? Are you going to declare war on the heathen and give us back the kingdom, dominion over the earth? They didn't realize that there were 2 days, and remember, a day, according in the book of Peter, it breaks it down, that one day to the Lord is 1,000 years to us. We had 2 days, 2,000 years of prophecies that had to be fulfilled. All right? Israel still had to be punished, had to lose their way, lose their heritage, become dead, basically. All right? So it says, I'm read verse 7 again. Then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of times? Or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So when these scattered Israelites were to wake up to who they were, not knowing who they were, any people claiming that they've been the Israelites all along, well, those people are frauds. They don't fit the prophecies. And the prophecies fit the Israelites to the T. That they would be the walking dead. Dead while you're walking. Why? Because you are no people. You've been scattered. You don't even look like yourself anymore. Because you were scattered among all these heathen, all these different people. All right? And in that place, you faced all manner of death and danger, Your life was always hanging in the balance. Okay? Sorry, I just got a message from my professor. We're trying to get this registry thing done. But let me go to, let me just text him. I'm doing a lesson. All right, Salakia. But let me go to Jeremiah now. I mean, not Jeremiah, but Ezekiel 37. Because go to Ezekiel 37. Let's go to Ezekiel. Here we go. Because this doesn't fit. Remember, matter of fact, before I read Ezekiel, let me go to Deuteronomy 28. And one of my favorite scriptures in there is it's 45. All right? And it reads, Deuteronomy 28:45. Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of Yahweh thy power to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. The curses are going to be upon the Israelites for a sign for everyone to see. And as we've asked Vocab and many other people many a times, when are Benjamin Netanyahu's people going to present the evidences of them going into ships in yokes of iron and in chains and being shipped around the four corners of the earth and being sold? They can't produce it. But when you do your diligent research, you find out that his people were the ones who own the ships. People like Aaron Lopez. and all his constituents. So you can't be the oppressed when you're the oppressor. All right? That's why I refer to them as the victim villains. But let's go back to Ezekiel 37th chapter. And this whole chapter is fire. But I'm going to start at verse let me see. You know what? I'm going to read verses 1 through 7. Then I'm going to jump up to like 15. And this is Ezekiel 37:1. And it reads, "The hand of Yahweh was upon me and carried me out in the spirit of Yahweh and sent me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of dry bones," the walking dead. All right? Or they weren't even walking yet. They were just dead. "And caused me to pass by them round about. And behold, there were very many in the open valley. And lo, they were very dry. And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Lord, thou knowest. And again he said unto me, Prophesy unto these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of Yahweh." That would be a man called Abba Bivens. And through the prophecy of the Bible, Abba Bivens have to be Elijah. All right? And Elijah was John the Baptist. So he had to be John the Baptist, which is meat. Just like when when you understand that King David was Moses, or when you understand that that Solomon came back as the Lord, and he was Melchizedek before that. All right? That he was actually Adam. That's meat. And everyone's not ready to there's a difference between the milk scriptures and the meat scriptures. But, anyone with understanding, definitely the men of the great millstone understand all this, because the Lord is dealing with them. All right? And it says, verse 4 again, "And he said unto me, Prophesy unto these bones, and say unto them, O dry bones, hear the words of Yahweh. Thus saith the Lord power unto these bones, Behold, I cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live. And I will lay sinews on you, and bring you flesh upon you, and cover your skin, and put breath in you, and ye shall live, and ye shall know that I am Yahweh." And that's exactly what happened. We rose up. All right? And it started. I went to school with kids that we used to call them the Hebrews. One of them became my first wife as very young teenagers. And I regret to this day that I didn't have an understanding and know how important that was. All right? And we're still, loosely, we still kind of talk every now and then. All right? But her family, her mother was one of two wives, and her father had like 12. He had 7 with her mother, and he had like five or 6 with his other wife. All right, and they lived in 2 different apartments, right next to each other. I remember this. And they wore, they wore garments. They didn't wear regular clothes like everyone else. They were a part of that awakening. And little did I know that all that was circled back around to me in my adult life. All right? But then you get to the prophecy also in Ezekiel about the stick. You can't get around that. So where is the Hebrew? Where are the Amalekite camps, the Israeli camps around the 4 corners of the earth, trying to wake up their people with the sign identifying all 12 tribes? They don't fit the prophecies because they're not the people. Call halal Yahweh B'Shem Shai B'Hashem Rakah HaKodash Kwam Yasharala Shalom.